After the finals in 2022 and especially before the finals, many people put Al Horford among the future competitors to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he did not manage to win the final with Boston. However, in this video we will try to look at his other achievements and compare him to other players who found themselves in the Hall of Fame. Before we begin, I'm the host of Capo Basketball. I'm only 21, so if you don't want to listen to me, you don't have to, but if you want, welcome in Capo Basketball. In fact, from the beginning of Horford's career, we can see that he was a winner. Attending the Florida College and playing for Florida Gators, he won the NCAA championship in his second season, winning in the final against UCLA and scoring 14 points. He also did it in his third season in 2007, where despite problems with an injury, he played on a court, and in the last game against Ohio State, he played against big college star Greg Oden. In this game he scored 18 points, 12 rebounds, 2 blocks and was his team leading scorer. It was also the first team from the ACC conference to win back-to-back championships since 1949. And also the first generally since Duke Blue Devils did it in 1992. 3 days after the victory, he committed himself to the NBA draft, where he was chosen with the third pick by Atlanta Hawks, and only Kevin Durant and Greg Oden were above him. His rookie season was at a good level, finding himself in the all-rookie first team, and achievement for me will be scoring an average of 12 points per game as 8th seed, led to 7 games against the championship Boston Celtics, while covering Kevin Garnett as a primary defender all time. In the second season he reached the second round, where they get swept by LeBron, and Horford himself struggled with an injury and missed 1 game of the series, playing very average through the playoffs, scoring only 7 points per game. In his third season, Horford picked up his stats sharply to 14 points per game, which gave him his first All-Star selections. Unfortunately, after good playoffs, where he also scored almost 15 points per game, they were swept by Dwight Howard Orlando Magic in the second round. In 2011 there was another selection for the All-Star game, adding the first and unfortunately the last selection to All-NBA third team, and another loss in the second round to Derrick Rose Chicago Bulls. Unlikely, in 2012 Al Horford got injured. He turned his left pectoral muscle, so he only played 11 games for Atlanta, and they were swept in the first round by Boston Celtics, where after all it did not look so badly on paper. Despite only playing 3 matches out of 4, he has 15 points per game. The 2012-13 season can certainly be called his best season. He scored 17.4 points per game, appearing in 74 matches for the team, and also winning a Player of the Week award for the first time. They lost in the first round to Paul George Indiana Pacers. In 2014, despite playing his best season in 29 games, scoring almost 19 points per game, Horford suffered a tear of his right pectoral muscle again and required season-ending injury. In 2015 it was another All-Star selection, and so far he has gone the longest in his career, scoring 14 points per game and winning as many as 16 games in a season with Atlanta Hawks. He reached the conference finals, where they lost to LeBron James. In 2016 it was a weaker season for Atlanta, where they lost again in the second round to LeBron James. Al Horford still lingering All-Star level. He then moved to Boston Celtics, where he kept in shape and reached the conference finals, losing once again in his career to LeBron James. A similar situation happened in 2018, his third career conference finals, and again losing for the 4th time to LeBron James. They lost then in 7 games. Horford was still at 15 points per game. This season was also his last, the 5th All-Star selections, and interestingly, the first and last All-Defensive team. In 2019, without selections to All-Star game, Horford reached the second round with Boston, where they lost to Giannis Antetokounmpo, scoring 14 points per game. In 2019, he signed a 4-year contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, where they got swept without Ben Simmons in the first round on the Boston Celtics. The following season, he was traded off to a young group in the Oklahoma City Thunder, where they only gave him to play 28 games and sent him to the bench, saying that they wanted to develop young players. Horford by these 28 games recorded as much as 14 points, 2 points per game in only 28 minutes. The salvation for him was the trade to Boston Celtics, where despite his limited role in the offense, he was an extremely good defensive player and he achieved his greatest achievements, which was the championship of the Eastern Conference. He was in the All-NBA first defensive team for me throughout the playoffs, and his contribution to covering Giannis was something undisputable. Of course, for a 37 years old, 12 points per game and a few consecutive offensive matches is also unusual. Al Horford played 147 games in the playoffs, scoring an average of 13.3 points per game. It's more playoff games than Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony have, Clyde Drexler, Chauncey Billups, Dirk Nowitzki, Hakeem Olajuwon, Kevin Garnett, James Worthy, Patrick Ewing, Pau Gasol, Steve Nash, Charles Barkley, and even more. And above him are the greatest legends themselves. Admittedly, he will probably have a few more games to that list in the next season, looking at what the Boston squad looks like. Okay, so I choose 3 names quickly who are in the Hall of Fame as a players and who did not have any wonderful careers. The first, Calvin Murphy, despite his amazing college career where he scored 33 points per game, 3-time All-Americans teams, he has no title of NCAA, no titles in his conference too. In the NBA he had only 1 All-Star selections, 1 extremely good season, 25 points per game, and he only played 51 playoff games. There is no national career, and yet he made his way to the Hall of Fame as a player. Richie Jarin was terrible for a Hall of Fame player in college, chosen in the second round of the draft, 6-time All-Star selection, 3-time All-NBA second team. Once in his career he had as much as 29.5 points per game, but his whole career average is 17 points per game, and he only played 42 playoff games. These are his entire achievements, and he is still the Hall of Fame as a player. The last guy is Marquise O'Hines, who was simply a world phenomenon playing in the amateur team Harlem Globetrotters. With his amazing moves at that time, he attracted a lot of children to basketball and developed the sport. Despite the fact that he is not a professional basketball player, it's not always about how you play, but what you give to the game. Whether Al Horford is a Hall of Famer, we must admit that if he is, it shouldn't be a shock for basketball fans, and his induct should be received positively. Especially looking that he had 2 seasons left with Boston Celtics and it is not known what else they will get together. Host of Capo Basketball has been with you. I hope you will visit our Facebook page and Instagram and also our adult channel with shorts. See you in the next one. Bye.